A gate agent points a trembling finger. "She's the one. She's being aggressive." Two airport police officers, their faces set in stone, immediately grab Maya Campbell. She's dressed in a simple grey hoodie and leggings, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. To them, she's just another statistic, another problem to be dealt with. But as they begin to drag her across the terminal floor, Officer Miller snarls, "You're done causing trouble." He has no idea how right he is. He's just put his hands on a special agent in charge of the FBI. And she's not just passing through. She's there to dismantle a dark conspiracy running right under his nose. The karma won't just be swift. It will be devastating. The air at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, was thick with a familiar cocktail of stale coffee, jet fuel, and human anxiety. Terminal 4 was a churning river of people, a microcosm of the city itself. Families on vacation, stressed executives barking into phones, and the weary, shuffling travelers of the 6:00 a.m. red-eye. Among them, blending into the background noise, was Maya Campbell. To the casual observer, she was nobody. A black woman in her late 30s, dressed in charcoal grey leggings, a nondescript hoodie, and worn running shoes. A simple black backpack was slung over one shoulder. She looked like a student, or maybe a yoga instructor, catching a flight back home. Her anonymity was a shield, a carefully constructed camouflage she had perfected over a 15-year career. But Maya Campbell was not nobody. She was Special Agent in Charge, SAC, Maya Campbell, head of a specialized FBI task force focused on human trafficking, and she was not catching a flight home. She was in the final, critical phase of Operation Safe Harbor, a grueling 18-month investigation. She was exhausted. The last 72 hours had been a blur of stakeouts, wiretaps, and the kind of bone-deep chill that only comes from running on caffeine and adrenaline. Her team had just successfully raided a holding house in Anaheim, liberating 3 victims. But the head of the snake, a shadowy figure known only as Petrov, was still in the wind. Intel suggested he was personally transporting a new package from Eastern Europe, and he was flying commercial, hiding in plain sight. Her flight, Global Air 815 to Chicago O'Hare, was set to board at Gate 42B. She wasn't just a passenger, she was the primary surveillance. Her team was staggered throughout the airport, but she was the only one ticketed for this specific flight. Her first-class seat, a standard bureau precaution, giving her a clear view of the boarding door. She leaned against a pillar, nursing a lukewarm coffee, her eyes scanning. This was her element. She catalogued everything. The stressed-out gate agent, a thin man named Trent, whose eyes darted nervously between his screen and the growing line. The pair of airport police officers patrolling their beat. One, a young rookie, Officer Reed, who looked like he was barely out of high school. The other, his partner, Officer Miller, was the opposite. Miller was a man who wore his uniform like armor. He had a thick neck, a buzz cut that was thinning on top, and a permanent sneer etched around his mouth. He walked with a heavy, deliberate swagger, his hand resting almost permanently on his utility belt. Maya clocked him instantly. An authority complex, a man who believed his badge gave him dominion over this small, carpeted kingdom. Her attention snapped to the line. There. A man in a cheap, shiny suit, his hair slicked back. He looked generic, but his eyes were cold, like polished stones. This was him, Petrov, and with him was a young woman, pale and terrified, with eyes so wide they seemed to drink in all the light. Anya. That was the name from the wiretap. She clutched a brand-new, stiff-looking handbag, and Maya knew without seeing it that her passport and papers were inside, held by Petrov. Maya subtly shifted her position, moving closer to the first-class boarding lane, keeping her head down, pretending to be scrolling through her phone. She needed to be close. She needed to see how Petrov handled the boarding pass, how he spoke to Anya, if he spoke for her. Every detail was evidence. Suddenly, a loud, nasal voice cut through the terminal din. Excuse me, this is the first-class line. What do you think you're doing?" Maya felt a sharp poke in her back. She turned slowly. A woman, dripping in gold jewelry and wearing a weekend in Napa sweatshirt that looked like it cost more than Maya's first car, was glaring at her. This was Sharon Hayes. Her face was a mask of indignant privilege. "This is the line for first class and priority members," Sharon snapped. "Not for people like you." Maya simply looked at her, then turned back to watch Petrov, who was now approaching the podium. This dismissal was, to Sharon Hayes, an act of war. "Hey, I'm talking to you!" Sharon's voice rose to a shriek. "You can't just stand there. You're probably trying to sneak on. I bet your ticket is for basic economy." The outburst drew attention. Trent, the gate agent, looked over, his face pale and stressed. Officer Miller, sensing a disturbance, began to walk over, his hand dropping from his belt to his sidearm in a gesture of practiced intimidation. Maya held up a hand to Sharon, her eyes still locked on her target. "Ma'am, I'm not in your way. Please calm down." "Calm down? Calm down?" Sharon recoiled as if she'd been slapped. "You're being aggressive. You're threatening me. Security. Officer, this woman is threatening me." Officer Miller arrived, stepping between Maya and Sharon. He didn't even look at Sharon. His eyes were fixed, with laser-like intensity, on Maya. He looked her up and down. The hoodie, the leggings, the color of her skin. His mind was made up. "What's the problem here?" Miller's voice was a low growl. She, Sharon, the victim, stammered. "She cut the line, and when I told her this was for first class, she got in my face. She threatened me. I feel unsafe." Maya finally turned her full attention to the officer. "That is not true, officer. I was standing here, observing the gate. I am a ticketed passenger." Miller's lip curled into a smirk. "Observing the gate?" "Right. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step out of the line. Now. You're causing a disturbance." "I'm not causing a disturbance," Maya said, her voice dropping to a calm, flat tone that in other circles was known to freeze men's blood. "This woman is. I'm waiting to board my flight." "Are you arguing with me?" Miller took a half-step closer, invading her space. "I gave you a lawful order. Step aside or I'll remove you." Maya's mind was racing. Petrov was at the counter. Trent was scanning his passport. This was the moment. She couldn't be pulled away. "Not now." "Officer," she said, pulling her first-class boarding pass from her pocket. "This is my ticket. I am in the correct lane. I am not breaking any laws. I am not moving." For Officer Miller, this was the final straw. A black woman in a hoodie, holding a first-class ticket she probably stole, defying him. "That's it," he snarled. He grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, I have a non-compliant 1016 at gate 42B. Female, black, grey hoodie, becoming aggressive." He clicked off the radio and grabbed Maya's left arm in a painful, vice-like grip. "You're done," he spat. "You're resisting." "I am not resisting," Maya stated, not moving. "You are assaulting me. Let go of my arm." "Get her!" Miller yelled to his rookie partner. Officer Reed, his face a mask of panic, grabbed her other arm. The crowd gasped. Phones came out, dozens of them, capturing the scene. Sharon Hayes watched, a triumphant, venomous smile on her face. "Security drags black woman for arguing." The future headlines were writing themselves. And as they began to physically drag Maya Campbell away from the gate, pulling her off her feet, she watched in horror as Petrov and Anya passed through the boarding door. The hunt was over. She had failed. Unless... The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot, metallic taste in her mouth. Maya Campbell had been in war zones. She had faced down cartel sicarios. She had been undercover in prisons. But being manhandled in the middle of LAX, treated like a common criminal by a mall cop with a Napoleon complex, sparked a different kind of fire. I said, "Let go of me." Maya's voice was no longer calm. It was a command. She planted her feet, using her low center of gravity to make herself a dead weight. It was a standard compliance resistance technique. Miller, infuriated by her refusal to be cowed, yanked harder. "You're resisting arrest. That's another charge." "Arrest for what?" Maya shot back, her eyes scanning the crowd, the flashing phone cameras, the horrified faces, the smug satisfaction on Sharon Hayes's face. "For standing? For breathing? For holding a valid ticket? For causing a disturbance? For threatening a passenger?" Miller grunted, his face turning a blotchy red. "And for disorderly conduct?" "I did none of those things," Maya said, "but you are committing battery." "Officer Reed," she said, looking at the rookie, "you are too. I would advise you to release me." Reed flinched. Her tone, so precise, so authoritative, cut through his panic. He loosened his grip slightly. Miller saw it. "Don't listen to her, rookie. She's the perp. Now cuff her." Reed fumbled for his handcuffs. This was it. This was the point of no return. If those cuffs went on, her cover was blown, her operation was compromised, and 2 traffickers would disappear into the sky. She had one last card to play. It was the card she never played unless lives were on the line. Anya's life is on the line. "Stop," Maya said. Her voice was not loud, but it had an edge of pure, unadulterated steel that cut through the noise of the terminal. Everyone froze. Even Miller. "Officer Miller," Maya said, her eyes locking onto his. Her entire demeanor shifted. The confused passenger vanished, replaced by something cold and absolute. "You have made a grave mistake." "I've heard it all before," Miller sneered, recovering his bravado. "You'll sue, you'll call your lawyer. Save it." "I'm not going to call my lawyer," Maya said, her hand slowly moving toward her backpack, which was still slung over her shoulder. Miller and Reed tensed. "Hands! Show me your hands!" Miller yelled, reaching for his taser. "I am reaching for my credentials," Maya said, her voice deadly calm. "If you deploy that taser, Officer Miller, you will be charged with assaulting a federal officer in the commission of her duties, and you will spend the next 20 years in a federal penitentiary. Do you understand me?" The legal precision of the threat, the sheer confidence with which it was delivered, stopped Miller cold. His hand hovered over the weapon. Slowly, Maya unzipped a side pocket of her backpack. She didn't break eye contact with Miller. She reached inside and pulled out a small, black leather wallet. She flipped it open. Embossed in gold, set against a dark blue background, was the seal of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Beside it, her credentials: Special Agent in Charge, Maya E. Campbell, Department of Justice. A collective, audible gasp went up from the crowd. Sharon Hayes's triumphant smile evaporated, replaced by a slack-jawed, pale horror. Trent, the gate agent, looked like he was going to be sick. Officer Reed dropped her arm as if it were on fire. "Oh my God," he whispered. Officer Miller stared. He blinked, his brain trying to reconcile the woman in the hoodie with the badge in his face. That's a fake," he stammered, but the color was draining from his face. "That's a high-quality fake." "It's not a fake," Maya said. She reached into the other side of her backpack and pulled out her Sig Sauer P229, standard bureau issue, keeping it pointed safely at the floor. "And neither is this." Now you have exactly 3 seconds to get your hands off me, or I will consider it a hostile act." Miller released her arm. Maya stood up to her full height, rubbing her wrist. The air crackled. The crowd was silent, all phones still recording. She turned first to the rookie. "Officer Reed, get on your radio. I want you to contact the tower and the Port Authority. I want that jet bridge for Flight 815 pulled back. Now. Tell them it is a federal matter. No one on or off." "But, ma'am, the flight?" Reed stammered. "Do it!" Maya roared, the full force of her command voice slamming into him. Reed jumped and scrambled for his radio, his hands shaking. She turned to Trent, the gate agent, who was trying to blend into his podium. "You, Trent, I want the full passenger manifest for this flight. I want the names of the man and the young woman who just boarded, the ones in seats 2A and 2B, and I want all CCTV footage of this gate for the last hour. Yes, ma'am, right away." Trent's fingers flew across his keyboard. Finally, Maya turned to Officer Miller. His face was a mask of disbelief, rage, and a new, dawning terror. "You," he started. "You can't just—" "Shut your mouth," Maya said, stepping into his space, just as he had done to her. "You are relieved of duty. Give your partner your weapon." "I don't report to you," Miller spat. "You do now. You just assaulted a federal officer. You are being detained. Reed," she snapped. "When you're done with that call, disarm your partner. He is a person of interest in a federal investigation." "An investigation?" Miller laughed, a high-pitched, nervous sound. "For what? This misunderstanding?" Maya leaned in close, her voice a whisper that only he could hear. "For starters, assault. But more importantly, for interference with a multi-state human trafficking investigation." She saw it then. A flicker. A tiny, almost imperceptible reaction in his eyes. It wasn't just shock. It was recognition. "You just let my primary targets walk onto that plane, officer," Maya continued, her voice soft and lethal. "And the way you grabbed me, so fast, so eager to create a scene. It makes me wonder." She pulled back, her eyes narrowing. "It wasn't just racial profiling, was it, Miller? You wanted me away from that gate. You wanted a distraction." A new, sickening realization began to dawn on her. This wasn't a random encounter. This was an interception. "Oh," she said, a cold smile touching her lips. "You're not just a racist cop, Officer Miller. You're dirty." The terminal, moments before a scene of chaotic public drama, had become an island of chilling, official silence. The passengers for Flight 815 were still standing, phones held aloft, but they were no longer just recording an incident. They were witnesses to a takedown. Officer Reed, his face white as a sheet, spoke into his radio. "Tower, this is Unit 12 at Gate 42B. We have a federal situation. We need the jet bridge for Global 815 pulled. Repeat, pull the bridge. Authority, FBI." An airport supervisor, a harried-looking man named Henderson, came running up, his tie flying. "What in God's name is going on here? Miller, Reed, we're getting calls about a riot. And the jet bridge? Are you insane?" Miller, still reeling, pointed a shaking finger at Maya. She says she's FBI. She's interfering with..." Maya didn't even look at Henderson. She held up her badge. "Special Agent in Charge, Maya Campbell, FBI. You are?" "David Henderson, Terminal Operations Manager." Henderson swallowed, his eyes wide as he took in the badge and the gun, which Maya now had holstered at her hip. "Mr. Henderson," Maya said, "all business. 2 of your officers have just assaulted me and interfered with a federal operation. That jet bridge will be pulled. My targets are on that plane. Furthermore, I am requisitioning your security office. and I am detaining Officer Miller on suspicion of assault and conspiracy." "Conspiracy?" Henderson and Miller said at the same time. "That's insane!" Miller bellowed, finding his voice. "I was responding to a passenger complaint. That woman—" He pointed at Sharon Hayes, who was trying to slip away into the crowd. "She said you threatened her." "Ma'am!" Maya's voice cut through the air. "Stop. Right. There." Sharon Hayes froze, her back to them. "You," Maya said, "are a material witness. And you, Ma'am, are currently on video for filing a false report and instigating an assault." Sharon turned, her face a blotchy red. I thought—" "You thought wrong," Maya said. "Sit down on that bench. Do not move and do not use your phone." 2 more LAX police officers arrived, running, followed by 2 TSA agents. They saw Miller, Reed and the woman with an FBI badge, and skidded to a halt, hands on their weapons, confused. "Reed," Maya commanded. "Detain your partner, now, or you will be detained for obstruction." Reed, caught between his training partner and a SAC from the FBI, made his choice. "Mike, give me your sidearm." "Like hell I will," Miller roared. "Give it to him, Officer Miller," Maya said, her hand resting on her own weapon. "We can do this easy, or we can do this hard. The entire terminal is watching. Your call." Defeated, his face a mask of pure hatred, Miller unclipped his weapon and handed it, butt first, to his partner. "Now the cuffs," Maya ordered. "You can't cuff me." "Watch me," Reed said, his voice shaking with anger and humiliation. He'd been put in an impossible position. He grabbed Miller's arms, spun him around, and cuffed him. The click, click, click of the restraints was shockingly loud in the terminal. The crowd erupted in a low murmur. The man who had been dragging a woman across the floor moments ago was now in handcuffs himself. Maya turned to Henderson. "Get me that secure room, and get me the head of your airport police precinct, now." She looked at the new officers. "You two, watch him." She nodded at Miller. "And her." She nodded at Sharon. "Nobody leaves." As Henderson fumbled with his phone, Maya's own phone buzzed. It was her second-in-command, Agent Markison. "Boss? What the hell is going on?" we heard at 10:16. "Are you clear?" "I'm clear, Markison," Maya said, walking away from the crowd. "But the op is compromised. My cover is blown. Targets are on Flight 8 I've had the bridge pulled. I need you and the team at Gate 42B, Terminal 4. Full tactical. Now." "On our way," Markison said. "And Mark," Maya added, "I have a new suspect in custody. LAXPD Officer Miller. I think he's our inside man." A beat of silence. "You think?" "I'm sure," Maya said, looking at Miller, who was now being held against a pillar. "I saw his face when I said trafficking. He knew. He ran interference. He used the passenger as an excuse to pull me. My God. Okay, we're 5 minutes out." Maya hung up. Trent, the gate agent, scurried over, holding a printout. "Ma'am, Agent Campbell, here's the manifest. Petrov and Anya Volkov. Seats 2A and 2B, just like you said." "Thank you, Trent," Maya said, taking the paper. "You're going to come with us to the security office. You have some questions to answer, too." Trent's face went from pale to ghostly. "Me? I just work here. I did what I was told." "We'll see," Maya said. The heavy thud of combat boots announced the arrival of her team. 4 agents, including Markison, kitted out in FBI vests, moved through the crowd like a wave, parting the sea of passengers. They immediately established a perimeter. "SAC Campbell," Markison said. "Plane is secure. Bridge is pulled. Passengers are still on board." "Good," Maya said. "Agent Kincaid, Agent Lee, go on to that plane. Apprehend Petrov. Seat 2A. He's the principal. Be discreet if you can, but he is not to escape. Seat 2B is the victim, Anya Volkov. She is to be handled with extreme care. Get her to victim services." The two agents nodded and moved swiftly down the jet bridge. "Markison," Maya continued, "you're with me. We're going to the terminal security office. Bring our 3 guests." She pointed. "Officer Miller, Sharon Hayes, and Trent, the gate agent." "Copy that," Markison said. He motioned to the other agents. "Let's go." As Miller was led away, he looked back at Maya, his eyes promising murder. You bitch! You set me up! This is entrapment!" Maya just looked at him, her face impassive. "You have the right to remain silent, officer. I'd strongly suggest you start using it." She turned to the crowd, which was still filming. "The situation is under control. Please step back and allow the officers to work." She then turned to Henderson. "Lead the way." As she walked, she passed the pillar she had been leaning against just 10 minutes earlier. It felt like a lifetime ago. The hunter had become the prey, and then, in a flash, the hunter once more. But the game had changed. It wasn't just about catching Petrov. It was about rooting out the rot that allowed him to operate. The LAX security office was a windowless, beige room that smelled like burnt popcorn and industrial cleaner. It was suddenly very crowded. Maya sat at the head of a particle board table. Agent Markison stood by the door. On the other side of the table sat Trent, the gate agent, visibly vibrating with fear. In a plastic chair in the corner, cuffed to a metal rail, sat Officer Miller, glowering. And in another chair, by the door, sat Sharon Hayes, who had finally dissolved into tears, her mascara running in black tracks down her cheeks. The head of the LAX police precinct, Captain Wallace, stood awkwardly near the wall, his face grim. He had just been read in by Maya, and the color had not returned to his face. "Let's start from the beginning," Maya said, her voice quiet but filling the room. She looked at Trent. "Mr. Johnson, tell me about your interactions with Officer Miller today." I, Trent stammered. "Nothing. I mean, just hi. He patrols this gate all the time. He's always here for the big international flights. Always." "Always," Maya repeated, filing that away. "And when Mr. Petrov and Ms. Volkov boarded, did you scan their passports?" "Yes, of course. Standard procedure," Trent said. "And did the system show any alerts?" Trent's eyes darted to Miller just for a second. It was all Maya needed. "Mr. Johnson, look at me," Maya commanded. "The passport for Anya Volkov was a known fake. It's flagged in the Homeland Security database. When you scanned it, a red alert should have appeared on your screen. Did it?" Trent began to sweat profusely. Our system, it's buggy. Sometimes it..." "Don't lie to me," Maya said, leaning forward. "Lying to a federal agent is a felony. Right now, you're a material witness. You keep lying, you become a co-conspirator. You want to be charged alongside him?" She jerked her chin toward Miller. "No, no!" Trent cried. He told me to." "Who?" "Miller," Trent pointed. He came by about an hour ago. He told me there was a high-value passenger coming through, and that if I got any database alerts, I should ignore them. He said it was a Port Authority VIP thing." "And you just did it?" Markison asked from the door, his voice dripping with contempt. He paid me," Trent whispered, his face crumbling. "Just $1,000. He said it was just to make sure a rich guy didn't get hassled by TSA. I have kids. My car just broke down. I just hit override. That's all." "You just hit override," Maya repeated, her voice dead. "And let a trafficked girl get on a plane." Trent let out a sob and put his head in his hands. From the corner, Miller erupted. "You sniveling little rat. I should have known you'd crack." "So you admit it?" Maya snapped, her attention instantly on Miller. Miller's face darkened. "I admit nothing. You've got nothing. He's a liar." "We have his sworn testimony," Maya said. "We have the system logs showing the override. We have bank records we're pulling right now that will show the $1,000 cash withdrawal. And we have you, on CCTV, creating a diversion by assaulting me right as your high-value passenger was boarding." "I was doing my job," Miller insisted. "That woman," he nodded at Sharon, "complained." Maya finally turned to Sharon Hayes. "Mrs. Hayes, your turn." Sharon looked up, her face a mess of tears and makeup. I didn't mean, she was in the way. She was dressed. I just assumed. I want my lawyer. I want to go home." "You're not going home," Maya said flatly. "You filed a false report. You lied to a police officer. Your lie was the legal pretext Officer Miller used to commit battery against me. Your actions directly led to the interference of a federal investigation." But, he's the dirty one. I'm the victim," Sharon cried. "You are no victim," Maya said, her patience gone. "You are an instigator. You saw a black woman in a hoodie, and you decided she was a criminal. You used your privilege like a weapon, and you aimed it at me. The only difference is this time, you aimed it at a federal agent." Maya stood up and paced. "Your little complaint was the linchpin." Miller was waiting. He needed an excuse. He couldn't just walk up and drag me away for no reason. He needed a concerned citizen to give him probable cause. And there you were. Perfect, loud and prejudiced. You were his useful idiot. Sharon let out a small wail. The reality of her situation, that she wasn't just being told off, but was implicated in a federal crime, was crashing down on her. "Now," Maya said, turning back to Miller, "let's talk about the real operation. Petrov is just a courier. You're not taking bribes just to let one man through. You're part of the ground crew. You're the one who makes sure security looks the other way. How many girls, Miller? How many Anyas have you let pass through this terminal?" "Go to hell," Miller spat. "Oh, you'll be there long before I am," Maya said. The door opened. Agent Kincaid entered. "Petrov is in custody, boss. He's not talking, but the girl, Anya, she's safe, and she is talking." "Good," Maya said. "And," Kincaid added, "we found this in Miller's locker." He held up a clear evidence bag. Inside was a prepaid burner phone. "We just got the call logs," Kincaid said. "He's made 12 calls to a single number in the last 48 hours. The last one was 2 minutes before he engaged you. We're pinging the number now, and it belongs to a phone currently on the person of David Henderson." The room went silent. Captain Wallace, the precinct head, cursed under his breath. Maya looked at Miller. His face had gone from red to ashen grey. He knew the game was over. "You weren't just a lookout, Miller," Maya said softly. "You were coordinating with the terminal manager himself." Maya nodded to Markison. "Get Henderson, and get Captain Wallace a very, very strong coffee. He's about to have to arrest his own airport command." The arrest of David Henderson sent a shock-wave through the airport's command structure. He was a 30-year veteran. He was Mr. LAX. He was also, it turned for, the kingpin of the airport's trafficking logistics. The next 4 hours were a blur of systematic dismantling. Maya Campbell, operating out of the now permanent command post in the security office, directed a full-scale federal takeover of the terminal's operations. First, Henderson. He didn't crumble like Trent. He was defiant, all bluster and threats of lawyers, until Markison and Kincaid sat him down and played the recording from Anya. The young woman, speaking through a Russian translator, described how she was told to look for the man in the blue suit, Petrov, and that once they got to the gate, a man with no hair and a police uniform, Miller, and a bossy man with a bad tie, Henderson, would make sure everything was okay. Henderson's defense collapsed. He was in it deep. The gambling debts were massive, and the trafficking ring owned him. He had been feeding them security schedules, camera blind spots, and personnel rosters for years. Second, Officer Miller. With Henderson and Trent both giving full confessions, Miller's bravado evaporated. His entire world, built on the flimsy foundation of a badge, a gun, and a deep-seated bigotry, had been demolished in minutes. He was a small, pathetic man in a system of much larger, more evil men. He, too, flipped, offering up names, dates, and bank account numbers in a desperate, sniveling attempt to get a lighter sentence. He admitted it all. He'd seen Maya watching Petrov. He recognized her focus, the trained observation of a professional. He didn't know she was FBI, but he assumed she was a cop or private security. He panicked. He looked for a way to neutralize her, and saw Sharon Hayes, already puffed up and looking for a fight. It was, as Maya had surmised, a target of opportunity. He'd signaled Trent to delay Petrov's boarding, to give him time to create the incident with Maya. He wanted her to argue. He wanted her to resist. He wanted to drag her away. It was all a calculated, cynical diversion to protect his real masters. Third, Officer Reed. The rookie was taken to a separate room. He was shaking, but his testimony was clear. He corroborated everything. He spoke of Miller's odd, borderline obsessive patrols. He mentioned how Miller would frequently test him, making racist or sexist jokes to see if he would report him. He always said this place ran on favors, not rules, Reed recounted. I thought he was just a jerk. I didn't know he was a monster. Maya looked at the young officer. You put your hands on me today, Officer Reed. You followed an illegal order. You're lucky you're not in cuffs right next to him. Mom, Reed said, his eyes pleading. I froze. I was wrong. I'm sorry. You will be on administrative leave, pending a full internal investigation, Maya said. But you told the truth. That's a start. Now, write down everything you remember, every joke, every favor, everything. Reed nodded, visibly relieved to be on the right side of the line, however barely. Finally, Maya dealt with Sharon Hayes. She was no longer a person of interest. She was a defendant. Mrs. Hayes, Maya said, returning to the room where Sharon was being watched by a female officer. You are being charged with filing a false police report, perjury, and interference with a federal investigation. Perjury? Sharon shrieked. It's not. I was upset. You can't. This will ruin me. My husband he's a very important man. And I am a very important woman, Mrs. Hayes, Maya said, her voice quiet. I'm a special agent in charge of the FBI, and today your assumptions, your prejudice, and your willingness to lie to destroy a woman who you thought was beneath you almost allowed a human trafficking operation to succeed. Maya leaned down, getting eye to eye with her. Your husband can't help you. The videos of you screaming at me, lying to Officer Miller, and your smug little smile as he dragged me. They're already all over the internet. The U.S. Attorney's Office will be handling your case personally. My flight, Sharon whispered, defeated. Your flight has long since departed. You're being transported to the Metropolitan Detention Center. Sharon Hayes, the woman who had started all of this over a perceived slight in a boarding line, was cuffed and led out of the office, sobbing. The karma was absolute. It was now past noon. Flight 815 was, of course, cancelled. The airline was in chaos, but the U.S. government was now in charge of the terminal. Maya finally allowed herself a moment to sit down. Markison handed her a bottle of water. Hell of a morning, boss. Hell of a morning, she agreed, rubbing her bruised wrist. Petrov is being transported. Anya is with Victim Services. She's given us 3 new names for the Chicago end of the ring. Henderson and Miller are singing like canaries. And Trent is a puddle. Good, Maya said. We didn't just catch a courier. We just cut the head off the snake at LAX. All because you wore a hoodie, Marcuson said with a grim smile. All because Miller and Hayes saw a hoodie, Maya corrected. Their prejudice was the one thing they couldn't control. It was the loose thread. We just pulled it, and their entire criminal enterprise unraveled. The days that followed were a media cyclone. The story was irresistible, a perfect storm of viral content. The cell phone videos had hit the internet before Maya had even reached the security office. Karen and cop at LAX attack woman. Turns out she's the FBI. Airport security drags passenger, gets arrested by FBI on the spot. Corruption scandal at LAX. FBI busts trafficking ring, run by airport employees. The public narrative was simple. A racist cop and an entitled Karen had picked on the wrong woman, and she had delivered glorious, instantaneous karma. The videos were played on every news channel, dissected and analyzed. Sharon Hayes became a national effigy of privilege. Officer Miller became the face of corrupt, racist policing. But for Maya Campbell, the viral story was just noise. The real work was in the wreckage. Operation Safe Harbor had been blown wide open, but in the most spectacularly successful way possible. With the information from Miller, Henderson, and Anya, Maya's team, in coordination with the Chicago field office, rounded up the entire Midwest chapter of the ring. The property they were trafficking wasn't just young women from Europe. It was children from Central America, all being moved through commercial airlines, hidden in plain sight and protected by a shadow network of corrupt officials. The fallout was a cleansing fire. He was, of course, fired immediately. Facing an ironclad federal case, he pleaded guilty to a raft of charges, including assault on a federal officer, conspiracy to commit human trafficking, and bribery. His tough guy demeanor dissolved at his sentencing. He wept, begging the judge for mercy. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who had read Maya's victim impact statement, was unmoved. She sentenced him to 25 years in federal prison. His authority was gone, replaced by a number and an orange jumpsuit. The terminal manager. His fall was even harder. He was the ringleader, the one who corrupted others. He received a sentence of 35 years to life. His pension, his home, his reputation, all were seized or destroyed. The gate agent. He was the weak link, the man who sold his soul for $1,000. He testified against both Miller and Henderson. Because of his full, immediate cooperation, he received a lighter sentence of 5 years. But he would be a convicted felon for the rest of his life. He had lost his job, his family, and his future, all to just hit override. The rookie was suspended for 6 months without pay. He had to undergo extensive retraining, and his name was on a permanent watch list within the department. He had escaped criminal charges, but his career would forever be tarnished by his hesitation, by his failure to question a bad order. Her very important husband proved to be less important than he thought. Faced with incontrovertible video evidence and the full, unblinking attention of the U.S. attorney, she was terrified. The charges of interference with a federal investigation carried real prison time. Her high-priced lawyer managed to plead it down. She avoided jail but was sentenced to 3 years of probation, 1,000 hours of community service at a shelter for trafficking victims, and a staggering $250,000 fine, which was donated to the FBI's Victim Services Fund. She was also, of course, banned for life from Global Air and several other major carriers. She became a pariah, her name a synonym for Karen. Every time she left her house, she was recognized. The public shame was its own kind of prison. She was the real victory. She and the other victims from the Anaheim house were entered into the Federal Witness Protection Program. Anya, given a new name and a new life, began therapy. Maya received a letter from her, translated from Russian. It just said, "You were the first person who saw me. Thank you." 1 month later, the polished floor of LAX Terminal 4 reflected a familiar, hurried world. People still ran for flights, families still argued over baggage, and the smell of Cinnabon and stale coffee still hung heavy in the air. On the surface, nothing had changed. But for Special Agent in Charge Maya Campbell, everything was different. She stood near Gate 42B, a ghost haunting the scene of her own detonation. She was dressed as if by silent, defiant principle in the exact same outfit. Charcoal grey leggings, worn running shoes, and the nondescript hoodie. Her backpack was slung over one shoulder. She was waiting for a flight to Washington, D.C., a summons that had come directly from the FBI director's office. The terminal, however, was not the same. The atmosphere was charged, vibrating with a new, anxious energy. The TSA agents at the security checkpoint, who had once been brusque and bored, were now models of painstaking, almost fearful politeness. They made eye contact. They said, "Please," and "Thank you." Their supervisors, who used to huddle in pods, now roamed the floor, watching their own people with hawkish intensity. As Maya walked toward her gate, she saw the new LAX police patrols. They walked in threes, not twos. Their body cameras were not just present, but had bright, blinking green lights, impossible to miss. They didn't saunter. They marched. She was passing a newsstand when she felt a pair of eyes on her. It was Captain Wallace, the precinct head, the man who had been forced to oversee the gutting of his own command. He looked older, as if the last 30 days had aged him a decade. He saw her, hesitated, then walked over, his face a grim mask. "Agent Campbell," he said, his voice low. "Captain." Maya nodded, her expression neutral. I just wanted to say," he fumbled, clearly uncomfortable. "The reforms, we've implemented all of them. The new training protocols from the DOJ, the anonymous reporting system, we're cleaning house. I wanted you to know that. What happened to you? It won't happen again." "What happened to me was an assault, Captain," Maya said, her voice flat. "What was happening to them," she nodded toward the international gates, "was a conspiracy. I'm glad you're fixing the first. The second is what keeps me up at night." Wallace paled, but nodded. "Understood, Agent. We owe you." "Just do your job, Captain. That's all anyone asks." She left him standing there and continued to her gate. She was a celebrity. She hated it. Her entire career had been built on the art of being unseen, of blending into the background, of being the person no one ever remembered. That was gone. "Oh my God," a woman whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. She was standing in the boarding line for a flight to Denver. "It's you! You're her!" Maya tensed. The woman in her mid-20s beamed at her. "You're the FBI agent, from the video! Oh my God, I follow you on... Well, you're not on social media, but the story... You're my hero!" The woman's exclamation was loud enough to turn heads. Suddenly, Maya was the center of a small, growing bubble of attention. An older man stepped forward. "Are you really? The agent from the news?" "I'm just a passenger, folks," Maya said, trying to defuse the situation. "No, you're not," the young woman insisted, her eyes shining. "You're the one who took down those monsters, and that awful woman. God, the way he grabbed you. My friends and I, we watched it, and we cheered. Can I get a selfie?" "I'm afraid not, ma'am," Maya said, her voice polite but firm. "I'm on official business?" "Oh, right. Of course," the woman said, flushing. "Sorry, it's just—" "Wow, thank you for, everything." More phones were out, but this time they weren't recording an assault. They were recording her. The hero. Maya felt a strange, cold disconnect. The public celebrated the 30-second clip of karma. They didn't see the 18 months of grueling surveillance, the sleepless nights, the bureaucratic nightmares, or the face of Anya Volkov, which was now etched into Maya's memory. She found a seat against a wall, away from the crowd, and pulled out her phone. The summons to D.C. was both a victory lap and a minefield. The Bureau was, on the one hand, ecstatic. Operation Safe Harbor hadn't just been a success, it had been a tectonic victory. The LAX bust had shattered the ring's entire West Coast operation. The data from Henderson's and Miller's phones, cross-referenced with Petrov's financials, had painted a sprawling, horrifying picture. But on the other hand, the Bureau's press office was having a collective meltdown. The public nature of the bust, the viral videos, the fact that one of their own SACs had been manhandled on camera. It was a PR nightmare and a PR triumph, all rolled into one. She had been through a grueling internal debrief. "Why didn't you identify yourself sooner, Agent Campbell? Do you feel your attire contributed to the escalation? Are you aware of the political ramifications of a federal agency arresting local police in such a public-facing manner?" She had answered every question with the same cold, precise logic. "I identified myself at the moment it became operationally necessary to prevent the escape of a federal fugitive. My attire is my operational camouflage, and the political ramifications are the direct result of Officer Miller's criminal conspiracy, not my reaction to it." She had been cleared, of course, but she knew she was now that agent. The one who caused a scene. The one who was famous. It was a new, unwelcome vulnerability. A movement at the edge of her vision caught her eye. Down the terminal, near a baggage claim escalator, was a familiar figure in an LAX police uniform. It was Officer Reed. The rookie. He wasn't on patrol. He was on a fixed post, watching the escalator. It was a punishment detail, the kind of mind-numbing, dead-end assignment given to rookies who screwed up or veterans on their way out. His 6-month suspension had been headline news. His return was silent. He looked thinner, his face drawn. He saw her. His eyes widened, and he froze. Maya held his gaze from across the concourse. For a long second, they were the only two people in the terminal, bound by that one, violent moment. Reed looked down, then back up. He gave a single, hesitant nod. It wasn't an apology or a greeting. It was an acknowledgement. "I see you. I remember." Maya gave a slow, deliberate nod in return. Then she turned away. He had made his choice, however late, and he was living with it. Her phone vibrated, not with a text, but a call. It was Marcusson. "You're not going to like this, boss," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I'm on my way to D.C. to get a medal or a reprimand, Mark. I don't like much of anything today." "What is it?" "The D.C. connection. The money trail from Henderson's offshore accounts. It's not just an aid. The lobbying firm that's been washing the money. We just got a warrant for their client list. And," Maya said, her blood turning to ice, "Senator Harrison. The Senator Harrison. The one who sits on the— wait for it— Homeland Security Committee." Maya closed her eyes. The rot didn't just go to the top. It was part of the top. So, Petrov, Miller, Henderson. They weren't just a cell. They were a franchise, and Harrison was providing the political cover. "That's what it looks like," Marcusson said. "The director isn't just calling you for a debrief, Maya. He's calling you to lead the new task force. Public corruption. Human trafficking. This just went from a field op to a full-blown DC war. And they know we're coming, Maya stated. Oh yeah. The second that lobbying firm got the warrant, they started shredding. Harrison is already on cable news, talking about federal overreach and a witch hunt. He's going to try and paint you, personally, as an out-of-control agent. A cold, hard smile touched Maya's lips. Let him. He's making the same mistake Miller did. He's looking at the hoodie. This is going to be ugly, boss. They're going to use the video. Say you're unstable, aggressive. Let them, Maya said again, standing up as her flight began to board. They're a month late. They think I'm a public relations problem. They're about to find out I'm a criminal investigation. First class, Zone 1, you are now welcome to board, the new, scrupulously polite gate agent announced. Maya zipped up her hoodie. It wasn't camouflage anymore. It wasn't a disguise. It was a symbol. It was the thing her enemies always underestimated. It was the last thing they saw before their world came crashing down. It was her new uniform. She walked down the jet bridge, leaving the ghosts of LAX behind her, and flew east toward the new storm. What we just witnessed wasn't just a simple case of instant karma. It was a story about two kinds of justice. The first was the one we all saw on those cell phone videos, the public, satisfying humiliation of a bigot and a bully. But the second, more important justice, was the one we didn't see. It was the quiet, systematic takedown of a vast criminal conspiracy. It was a story of how prejudice can be a tool for something far more sinister. Officer Miller and Sharon Hayes thought they were just putting a loud black woman in her place. What they were really doing was acting as the front line for a human trafficking ring. Their bigotry was the shield that monsters hid behind. But they picked the wrong woman. They didn't just assault a passenger. They assaulted a federal agent who had dedicated her life to hunting those very monsters. The karma here wasn't just swift. It was total. It wasn't just a job lost. It was a criminal empire brought to its knees. If this story shocked you, if it made you angry, and if it made you cheer, then please hit that like button. Stories like this, where the darkness of prejudice and corruption is brought into the light, need to be shared. Share this video with your friends and family, and of course, to make sure you never miss another story of karma, justice, and the truth, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening.